From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, son.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Good morning to everyone. Looks like we are going to be looking at temperatures on the increase here. But before we get into the forecast here, I do want to remind you that you can share your photos with Weather NorCal. Just go to the free Weather NorCal app and send those photos. It's a great way to share any type of photo. And of course, we've got the fire photos, you've got beautiful sunset, sunrise photos, your pets, ways you're staying cool. The works. Send those photos. Again, you've got that free Weather NorCal app on your iPhone, your Android device. Just search for Weather NorCal and you can download the app for free today. All right, let's take a look at that warming trend. It's the rest of the week and into the weekend and really even going into next week. Now, we're also looking at those overnight lows on the increase as well. So we're not getting that recovery in the overnight hours that we've seen over the last few mornings. Nearing 110 degrees in the valley, but that's going to hold off until next week. But you get the idea. It's going to get warmer and it's going to stick around for a while. We also have the return of the chance for mountain thunderstorms here, starting really as early as Friday, but at least into the first half of the weekend. Here's your neighborhood forecast at a glance. Those temperatures are going to be in the low 60s for the coast. We got some smoky skies, and we'll talk about, of course, what we're looking at here, just how smoky it's going to be, especially to the east of the valley here as we go through the afternoon today. All right, let's take a look at your forecast for today. Temperatures are going to be in the low to mid 90s. So still looking at temperatures below normal today. It's going to, that warming trend is going to be gradual over the next several days. Temperatures mainly in the 80s for the higher elevations. Most of the smoke will be this region right here. Not as bad for the valley, not as bad obviously to the west. In fact, really no haze or smoke out towards places like Trinity County and along the coast. Here's your 7-day outlook for the valley. Temperatures just slowly ticking upward, maybe a downward trend on Saturday, but you get the idea. We're going to continue to watch these temperatures slowly increase here. Taking a look at your 7-day outlook for the coast. Temperatures in the mid 60s, give or take, for the next 7 days. No big surprises there, right? Temperatures on the increase for the inland areas, and not to mention out towards Trinity County as well. Here's a look at your 7-day outlook for Trinity County, Alturas, and Susanville. Of course, you're looking at those smoky skies, especially off to the east. Now, it's going to be hazy, I think, even today and tomorrow for Mount Shasta. You kind of get the idea here. And this is going to extend possibly even into next week with those hazy conditions. But it's going to be kind of one of those day-by-day conditions here where we have to look at where the fire is, what kind of activity that we're seeing. That really depends on just how hazy it gets. That's your forecast at a quick glance. If you need to get on out of here, have a great day. In the meantime, let's take a little bit more in-depth look at the forecast. And on top of that, we'll take a look at some of the fire conditions as well. This is what the heat signature looked like early this morning. Still looking at quite a hot spot. What we're looking at here in the Park Fire is the east side of the fire. You can kind of see a little bit of that hot spot to the north and east as well, but that's still showing that we are still seeing a hot spot. And it's been the case overnight. The last few nights, we've actually seen really not much in the way of those hot spots, but of course, tonight, those winds did stick around a little bit longer than expected. Taking a look at your latest fire perimeter. Now, I'm not going to go into distances or anything of that nature. And the reason being is this fire, it seemed like yesterday we were getting updates every hour. And this number of how many acres the fire has burned just kept ticking up and up and up throughout the day. So you post an update, and then by the time you post that update, the numbers had changed. So this is a recorded forecast that I do. So by the time you watch this, most likely the containment number may have changed. The acreage will most likely have changed. So the perimeter itself is expected to change as well. So I don't want to give you any distances in this particular forecast. However, if you want a more detailed, in-depth look at the fire perimeter, so the latest conditions coming in, watch Coffee with Kruger live at 7 a.m. Now, if you can't watch it live, let's say it's 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, you can still watch the recorded version of Coffee with Kruger, and you can get the access to that from the free Weather NorCal app. And you can, of course, just tap the Coffee with Kruger section, and, of course, from weathernorcal.com. All right, let's get into the latest on the fires as I'm recording this. You can see here 373,357 acres. That is reported as of last night. No new updates have come in early this morning, still at about 14% containment. You can see that containment line, by the way, on the southwest side of the fire. We take you on to some other fires in the area. You got the Mill Fire up to 98% containment. This, of course, the Smith Fire has been 100% contained over the last few days. So I would anticipate in the next couple of days, I won't really need to be reporting much on these fires. Taking a look off to the west, the Hill Fire continues to see that containment uptick as well, but the overall acreage has not increased. Acreage has not increased for the Shelley Fire as well, but overnight we did see that containment go from 89% back up to about 92%. So we are seeing better containment here on the Shelley Fire as well. Talking about the smoke, we've got a dense smoke advisory until 2 o'clock today. Quite honestly, I think that should extend into places like Chester and Quincy as well, because we are looking at some pretty dense smoke in some areas here. Now let's take a look at that smoke forecast and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here you can see all of that dense smoke that we're seeing here even at 6 o'clock this morning. As we take you into the second half of the day, we're seeing more plumes of smoke develop. You've got some very dense smoke. So even as we go into the afternoon, I do anticipate we could still be looking at some very dense smoke. That dense smoke advisory may be extended. We'll probably see that happen because you can see we're not seeing much change and a lot of that dense smoke making its way in even at 11 o'clock tonight. As we go into Wednesday, it actually looks like it's beginning to slowly drift southward. So places like Quincy could be looking at more of that smoke, and not to mention maybe even close to Paradise. But then, of course, it shifts back up to the north and east. This is tomorrow at 5 p.m. We're seeing some of that haze most likely return for many parts of the valley. But then it all pushes again with some very dense smoke to the east of the valley. So you can kind of see most of that smoke is kind of on the eastern side of the state here. Now we take a look at the Purple Air AQI, Air Quality Index, and you can see here where most of and the worst air quality is. That, of course, is where we're seeing that dense smoke, and that's why we've got that dense smoke advisory in the area. And again, these are from early this morning. Now, I wanted to give you a point of reference where the fire is in comparison to that of the winds. So as we go into the noon hour today, we've got those winds actually coming in from the south, moving a little bit to the north and east. All right, so we're seeing a bit of a northeasterly wind. Now, it picks up a little bit. Now, what you'll notice, and this is to be kind of expected, you can see kind of in the foothills, we are seeing some stronger winds on the west side of the fire, but on the east side of the fire, the winds aren't going to be quite as strong. Now, that all being said, we have to remember, this is kind of looking at the forecast model. It's not necessarily taking into account the microclimates within where the fire is, because as we all know, these fires can create their own wind patterns. So that's where things get very tricky. Wherever these fires start, that's where you start getting the winds kind of picking up a little bit here. But the overall pattern is showing that the strongest winds today will be on the west side of the fire with that overall pattern. But in the east side, we're actually seeing more activity, maybe looking at some strong winds there as well. Now, as we go into 10 o'clock tonight, the overall wind pattern is showing that the wind should subside as we go into the evening and overnight hours. Fairly calm winds going into your Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday afternoon, here's the noon hour. Winds not too terribly strong at the noon hour on Wednesday, but there again, that same typical setup here with the stronger winds on the west side of the fire. East side of the fire, the wind's not quite as strong. Looks like they're coming due north and then a little bit to the north and east as we get to the north end of the fire. Here's a look at your relative humidity here, and we're seeing the good recoveries overnight. And as we take you into this afternoon, not so much on the recovery. In fact, we're seeing those humidity levels drop. This is no big surprise. This is that time of the year. We're actually not seeing quite as much recovery as we go into tomorrow morning, and as a result, the relative humidity levels may be a little bit lower going into tomorrow afternoon. So let's take a look at the fire weather risk, and really you can see here for today, really the risk is just going to be within that moderate range here for the valley and the east side of Lassen County as well. The humidity levels are decreasing. The winds may pick up a little bit for tomorrow. That's why you can see we're getting in that moderate to high range here, especially for the north end of the valley. Let's take a look at your satellite image. We did see some clouds move overhead last night. That's because this area of low pressure right here is producing some rain for our neighbors up to the north. We'd like to maybe see some of that rain, no lightning strikes, but unfortunately that all stayed up to the north. That's moving out, and that will allow us to begin to warm up as well. More on that warm up here in just a bit. But there you can see today at 5 p.m. maybe some afternoon cumulus clouds in the mountains. We are seeing some patchy clearing along the coast, but I think it's going to be hard pressed to do that. We go into tonight and tomorrow morning. We're still seeing some of that fog. In fact, it begins to infiltrate into those inland valleys as well in the morning hours. By the afternoon, that fog dissipates for those inland valleys, maybe a little bit dissipating fog towards Del Norte County, but you can see mostly cloudy skies here along the coast going into the afternoon. Here's the long range, and this is something I'm going to be talking about here the next few days, and that is the potential for some of that monsoon moisture to work its way back in, which could mean more mountain thunderstorms. This is a look at Friday. We're going to take a look at Saturday. Saturday also has a potential for more thunderstorms popping up in the mountains before Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week. It doesn't look like we're going to see much in the way of that thunderstorm activity. It should all stay to our south, and we'll be looking at those drier conditions. So that's something we're going to have to watch, because lightning is going to be a concern with those thunderstorms. Here's what it looks like for today. This cooler air, by the way, that's what's moving out. That will allow this heat and this dome of high pressure to slowly build. That's why we're seeing that gradual increase in the temperatures for the rest of this week, and not to mention through the weekend. Despite the fact that the area of high pressure is shifting southward, we're still going to be very close to that dome of high pressure, and that's going to keep those temperatures fairly hot. Then it actually expands westward as we go into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That should actually allow our temperatures to increase even more. And you see that in the trend here. You see how temperatures is slowly upticking as we go into the weekend, and then 106 to even upwards of 108 degrees here as we go into parts of next week. All right, let's take a look at your wave heights. You can see the wave heights aren't really that much of an issue, if at all, really, right? I mean, if you're have to be on a small boat, you can see that's not going to be much of an issue at all today or tomorrow. But it's the dense fog that we are seeing in some areas here that I think is going to be the main concern if you do need to be on that small boat fishing. But there you can see about north winds at about 5 knots, waves from the northwest at 3 feet at about 9 seconds. All right, so here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Your temperatures are mainly going to be in the 90s. And for the north coast, of course, you've got those temperatures in the mid 60s, give or take, for the coast. But the inland areas, obviously, that uptick in those temperatures, a warming trend, could get up to 100 degrees, basically upper 90s to about 100 here for Wednesday, really through the weekend and into early next week. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. Your temperatures in the 80s and even some 90s in there for your daytime highs. Your Modoc County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures will be in the mid-80s. Again, we got that chance for thunderstorms here for your Friday and Saturday. And for the eastern mountains, Friday, Saturday, a chance for thunderstorms as well. Smoky, very dense smoke here for today. That, of course, is going to really decrease that air quality in many cases here. Take you to the Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by NorCal Tractor. Those temperatures still not bad, mainly in the low 90s for the south end of the valley for places like Corning southward. As we head northward, maybe just a tad warmer. We're talking maybe more in the mid-90s for your highs. 91 for Whiskeytown, 95 for Lakehead, and 96 out in Palisadro. All right, let's take a look at your 7-day outlook for Redding. You can see those temperatures are back up into the triple digits by Wednesday, and we keep it that way for the rest of the week, this weekend, and even into next week.
Cottonwood Small Animal Clinic is one of the only clinics in the area that can see your pet same day and for evening emergencies. We're always striving to improve the care that we give to your pets.
Here at Cottonwood Veterinary Clinic, we have 10 brilliant doctors here to provide your pet with amazing collaborative care. From not only your dog to your cat, but also your gecko, your horses, your goats, and your cows. Come on down and see us. Both clinics are located in the heart of Cottonwood.